Welcome to On the Issues with ABC News senior White House correspondent Martha Raddatz and the Brookings Scholars for a dialogue on policy ideas. Today, Martha speaks to senior fellow Peter Singer about the state of America's armed forces.
Peter, I'm going to go right to the heart of your paper, which is the U.S. military is stretched thin, worn down, and addressing this has been deferred. A little more on the problem and how we solve it.
Right now, the risk is that the next president could face a military that gets broken under their watch. There have been all sorts of problems and everything from recruiting, not just in terms of raw numbers, but the quality that you're recruiting that have been deferred, that have been avoided. We see this most recently where the Army jumped through all sorts of hoops to meet its recruiting numbers, but by doing so, it broke the standards that it had held to over the last several decades of the all-volunteer force, and that's everything from letting in more high school dropouts than ever before to more people with criminal records than ever before.
Talk about why that matters. People all the time say, look, it's just a few, or the Army will say, we haven't lowered the standard that much. Why does that matter so much?
Well, what we hear from officers is that this has a long-term effect of hollowing out the force, and that it doesn't just affect your ability to carry out missions, but also it really undermines the morale internally. And then one of the things we have to worry about is not just who's coming in, but more importantly, who's leaving, because retention is at all-time lows in terms of the all-volunteer force.
Captains really matter.
Exactly. These are your generals of the future, your most talented folks, and they are exiting at numbers that are roughly double than what they've been before. They have a gap of about 3,000 captains and majors that they aren't there. And then you have to worry about how does this play out. And so this is something that has been deferred, but it's going to face that next president. The same thing, though, is happening on the equipment side, where we have lost over 1,000 vehicles in Iraq. But then also you have a whole generation of vehicles that are basically older than the soldiers that are either driving or flying them. And yet, again, the military has been focused on the big budget items and have ignored these more pressing needs. And so that next president is going to have a huge bill to face. And I should add, the other part of it we haven't talked about, National Guard and Reserves, which faces the equal kind of problems. And so what happens is that the bill for Iraq is not going to come due now, but 2, 3, 5, 10 years along.
And one of the things you say that might help is ending Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
That's one small part of it.
That would be a big part of it.
Well, and actually, to be blunt,
that would be a big issue.
It would be an issue maybe for social political reasons, but for the raw numbers, it's a help. It's not a solution. What we're saying there is that you have to put the focus back on personnel. And Don't Ask, Don't Tell has actually exited many talented and patriotic men and women that we need right now. Roughly 10,000 overall, about 1,000 in critical need areas like Arabic translators or pilots or engineers. And so what we're saying is this: it's time to put national security above social politics.
And if the troops are starting to draw down quickly on this one, will there be less focus on this? And does that worry you for the next president?
In terms of the drawdown in Iraq, I think you'll face this problem however long Iraq extends. It'll be worsened if Iraq continues to go on, but it'll still be there. One of the estimates, for example, is that whenever the Iraq war ends, 2 years after, you'll have a $20 billion backlog in terms of equipment that needs to be repaired and restored.
Okay, thanks, Peter.
Thank you.